Are you the owner of a business? It doesn't matter if it's a small business or a box business. Have you been able to tell people an effective story about how you and your business is doing? My first guest will be talking about that. That's an important business strategy, as she'll be telling you. Also in this program, Adeola Emdin will be talking about paid family leave, the National Family Leave Program, and how you and your family can benefit. But we begin by talking business. Sonia Alleyne, welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you, Sam. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Why is storytelling important to business success?
Oh, storytelling is important because it's another form of branding, or I should say it's the most important form of branding. And so it's the process by which you connect with customers, but also instill trust in them so that they continue to support your business.
So, what is important about this approach to developing business strategies?
Right. So we are hardwired for storytelling. It's one of the oldest forms. So before we were writing, we were talking and we were telling stories, and we've been telling stories throughout the ages. And so we're hardwired for it. We're emotionally connected to stories. And so stories resonate with your customers, and they create a bond, right? And they help us identify with your products, your services, but more importantly, they help us to realize your value. And so what we like to say is that people don't buy your products or services, they buy what your products and services do for them. And so your job as a business owner is to be able to relay that story so that I feel as a customer that I feel that this is the place for me, this is where I'm going to get value, and this is the business that I'd like to support.
You said we've been doing this for a long time. So, what has changed for many small businesses?
Well, the thing is that the process of storytelling has not changed. The medium may have changed, right? So now we use social media to tell our stories. And so before, and we still use word of mouth to tell a story, right? So if I walk into a business of yours and I have a wonderful experience, that's the story that I'm going to tell someone else. Man, I had this amazing experience. Boy, I met this wonderful store owner. And it's the emotion that we bring to our experience that we share with other people that will attract folks to our businesses. The good thing about social media now is that everyone has an opportunity to tell their story, because if you have a smartphone and if you are willing to be connected to the social network, then you can formulate a story that can be shared across the world.
A little while ago, I talked about small businesses and box businesses. What is a box business?
Well, box businesses are those big businesses like the Costco's and the Sam's Clubs and those types of businesses. But one of the things that at least we like to do in our business is to show the importance that small businesses can operate like big businesses. They just have to, they may not have the money and the resources, but storytelling doesn't require that. It requires understanding what your story is, and then being consistent in the story, and then also having consistent experiences for your customers. And so the example that I use is often is Apple, right? So if you walk into an Apple store, you're going to have the same experience that you have in New York, San Francisco, or even Tokyo, where they have Apple stores around the globe. What happens for a lot of small businesses is that you can have a different experience from the owner's spouse, an intern, a cousin or relative that came through to help out. And so what we lack often in small businesses is the consistency. And consistency is what engenders trust. And that's why you can, if you go into an Apple store, if you go into a Starbucks, you're going to have basically the same experience. You might encounter someone that you like more than you've liked in another store, but the process of the service is going to be the same. And so one of the things we talk about is while you're developing your story, and I can explain the foundations and the fundamentals of your story, you also have to create consistent operations, standard operating procedures, so that all of your experiences are consistent. And that's what will allow people to come back. If I tell you to come and experience something at a local store, and then you go and experience it and it's different, then you will probably never go back, right? And then that's the story that you will tell to someone else.
If you tell a small business owner that they must pay attention to standard operating procedures, would they understand what you mean by that?
And they may not, it does sound like a big term, and the big box organizations have many people that they hire in top level positions that create these for them. But for small businesses, it's simple things like, are you going to greet customers when they come in the store? And if you greet customers, in what fashion will you greet them? And to make sure that that's consistent across the board. If you are offering something, or if you have a particular procedure in terms of how you send packages out, right, then all of your packages should be sent out in the same manner. It shouldn't be, one type of packaging one day and another type of packaging the next day. It should be consistent. So again, the customer they have an expectation of what your delivery will be. And so that standard operating procedures is a big corporate word for meaning just being consistent in your day-to-day work practices.
There's been a lot of violence around many small businesses, I guess, in certain business districts. What do you say to them to keep their companies from being affected by violence?
Well, that's tough because things can erupt unexpectedly in any way, shape, or fashion, which we saw during the pandemic and during the protests over George Floyd's death. But being a part of the community is also an important piece of telling and solidifying your brand. People understanding why you're there, people understanding what it took for you to get your business to that place. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes when businesses are connected in a special way to communities, it protects them from certain things.
How do small businesses develop relationships with their community?
Well, a lot of that is outreach. It's actually talking to people. I also tell clients often that they should ask for feedback, right? So when you go on to Verizon or any of these corporate entities and you finish having a conversation with them, or they resolve a problem for you, what do they ask you to do? Do you mind taking a survey about how we did, right? And so if you are a community business, I'm betting that your clients are more willing to take a survey to help you and your business than you would to do a client like Verizon or AT&T or any of these others, because I know who you are. I know what you're doing. I'm connected to you. And so those are important things to do. You should be having, and I will say, I've noticed a lot of businesses who do. They know their customers. They know they know they have families, right? They know their birthdays. They know personal things about them. And so that's the advantage that small businesses have, that they can have more intimate relationships with their customers and their clients, which again extends the opportunity for the story to have more of an impact.
You use the word impact. What's the impact of gentrification on small businesses?
Well, it can be an opportunity, right? The one thing with businesses who do well, and we learned the word that we probably overused during the pandemic was pivot, right? And so what businesses often have to understand is when either industry standards change, when environments change, when customer tastes change, you have to figure out a way how to pivot and still be of service to the customers that you say that you're serving. And so with gentrification, what that means is that there are different people that are coming into our neighborhoods. There are different types of customers. And so it's all you have to do is get to know who they are, get to know what their tastes are, what they like, what they're interested in. You know, I am of Caribbean heritage, and so I can say that you know, sometimes we can be a little rough in some of our exchanges. And you know, part of that is cultural, and for those of us who are connected to the culture, we understand it. Sometimes we laugh about it. We're not offended by it, right? Because we understand it. It sounds like a grandmother. It sounds like an auntie. But for people in other communities, that it may be offensive, or they don't understand it, or it's not something that they are familiar with. And so it's just understanding who your customer base is, what their expectations are. And not saying that you have to change dramatically, but if you want the business, then you do have to expand how you connect with people and different communities.
What do you say to small businesses about the importance of not just connecting to the communities as people come into their stores, but being part of these business districts that are in most communities and most business districts, being a member of a business district?
That's also very important. And I think that those things that we're not are also some cultural things as well, particularly if you look in African American, Caribbean American, even Hispanic American communities. We're used to doing it all on ourselves. We're used to doing it all on our own. We don't like to share. We don't talk about when we're in trouble. We don't want to talk about when we are frustrated or in pain. And so, again, a lot of that is cultural as well. And so it's overcoming some of those things and being willing to be in community with people who may not look like you, or people who you're not necessarily familiar with, and working toward trust. Because a lot of times for us, and again, I keep saying it's cultural because it goes back to colonialism, it goes back to slavery. These are things that we've carried forward, where we don't trust people, or you know, you don't talk about what you're doing, right? There's some spiritual traditions around that too, right? You don't talk about the things that you want to do. So all of these things that make us interesting and dynamic and culturally colorful, right? Also, in some ways, sometimes hold us back. And it's just a matter of understanding that, right? It's not necessarily ridding ourselves of who we are, but just understanding the things that impact our behavior and correcting them when we're confronted with them.
We have less than a minute. What would you say to young people who are thinking about starting a business? What encouraging words would you give to them?
Oh, to start. Because what I've learned, and I've covered business stories for a very long time, is that once you start, even if you're scared, even if you are hesitant, once you start, all of the things that you need just start showing up. And so the more steps you take toward your dream, the more support will come and support you from places that you might not even expect. So if you have a dream, if you have a goal, start it. Just start.
People are seeing your website and other information about you in our lower third. So I'm sure our viewers will be getting in touch with you or getting to know more about who you are. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being our guest on Brooklyn 45, and continued success, especially with the book that you have authored.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this, and I appreciate the opportunity to share these insights. Thank you.
Are you eligible to benefit from the New York Paid Family Leave Program? Adeola Emdin joins me now to give you information that will be useful for you and your family. Call someone right now and tell them to watch our program. Adeola, welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you for having me.
What is this New York Paid Family Leave Program?
So the New York Paid Family Leave Program is a benefit that all employees in the state of who work in the state of New York are eligible for after they've worked with an organization for a period of time. Generally, it's after, if you're working full-time, 20 hours or more, it's after 26 consecutive weeks, so about 6 months of working for a company. If you're part-time, it's less, which is less than 20 hours per week. 175 days, doesn't have to be consecutive. You would then be eligible to receive compensation if you need to leave work and not work for a period of time, up to 12 weeks, to take care of a newborn or an adopted child or a foster child, to care for a family member that's ill. And it allows you to take that time off with job security. You'll maintain your health benefits. There's a lot of really great perks to the program, and it's important that folks know what it is and how to be eligible and what they can benefit from it.
What information do they have to provide to be able to get these benefits?
Yeah. So everyone who's working in the state of New York, for every employer, it's kind of required for most employers. You'll notice on your pay stub that there's a deduction for the paid family leave. Everyone's paying into this plan, into this program. So in order to be eligible and to take advantage of it, you're paying into it. So you just have to, once you know you qualify, if something's going on, you would apply for the benefit with the state of New York. You go on their website, I think it's paidfamilyleave.ny.gov, and you'll fill out an application. The criteria is completely online. It's not up to your employer to say, yes, you can take the leave or not. It's up to the government. When you give them the information, they'll verify the information from your employer to see if you qualify. And it's just that simple. If you are going through a situation and you need that support, just go on the website and fill out the form.
Now, people may be confused between the New York paid family leave program and the federal family leave program. What's the distinction between the two? And I'm going to invite you back anyhow to talk about the federal one.
Okay. Happy to. Okay, so the difference between New York paid family leave and the federal FMLA, which is the Family Medical Leave Act, they offer similar benefits, meaning 12 weeks to bond with a newborn or a child, to care for a family member. You get 12 weeks. The thing is, you don't pay into the federal plan. Everyone who works is eligible. The difference is you have to work with that with your company for at least a year. So there's a 12-month criteria. New York State has like 26 consecutive weeks, so half the time. It's also not paid. You're not paying into it, but you also don't get paid when you need to take the leave. What it does offer is, the job security. You have a job to come back to. You'll still be able to maintain your healthcare benefits. And not everyone gets it for federal. You have to work for specific employers, right? Companies with 50 or more employees are required to provide FMLA. So if you're in a small company with like 5 employees, FMLA won't work. But if you are in an organization with 50 plus employees and you've worked with them for at least a year, you are actually eligible for both the paid and the unpaid leave. Another difference between the two is FMLA is Family Medical Leave Act. So there's a medical piece. With the New York State paid leave, you can't use it for yourself, versus the federal one, you can. If you are ill, you can go get better and have job protection when you get back, versus the New York leave is always to take care of someone else. You can't use it for yourself.
Okay. I know someone, when I told them we were doing this program, they're looking after their dad. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to know if they take leave, is there any compensation for them?
Yes, there is. If they have been working for the company that they're in for at least 6 months, as if they're working full-time. They are eligible, and the compensation is about 67% of their pay. So they will, part of the paperwork is really trying to, they pull the last 8 weeks of your pay stub, and based on that amount, you'll get 67% or up to the average weekly wage rate in the state of New York. So you'll get no more than like $1,156.16. It's very exact. That is the most you will get per week. You can't get more than that, but up to 67% of your pay. So if 67% of your pay is less than that, you'll get the lesser amount. But if you make way more than that, they're not going to give you more. They're not going to give you past that amount. But there is a way to get compensation, and it's up to 12 weeks. You don't have to use it all at once. So you can go consistently, like for the next 12 weeks, I'm gone. Or you can also take time intermittently. And that means I'm going to work Monday, Tuesday, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm going to take care of my dad. And they count the days. So it's 12 weeks total, like 12 times 5. You have that many days to take the time, but you can only use it within a 1-year period. So you can't stretch it out beyond that as well.
Now, the New York Paid Family Leave Program is also available in other states as well, because on our YouTube channel, people outside of New York, outside of Brooklyn, outside of New York, they're watching the program as well.
So every state has its own, not every state, some states have their own paid program. And the criteria for each of them are different. So if you work in New York, you qualify under the paid family leave under New York. If you work in another state, some states just like it's the federal law or nothing else. Other states like Washington, they have a paid family leave program. Theirs you can actually use for yourself. You get up to 90% of your pay and up to their weekly, there's also a cap in terms of the amount that they would pay per week there as well. So it depends on the state that you live in. It's really important to go to the government site and see what the criteria is, and if your specific state has a paid leave program.
What about if a person is self-employed? Would they be eligible to benefit from this program?
So self-employment is actually, one of the things that that I think is always top of mind. You have the option, if you're self-employed in the state of New York or in any other state that does cover a paid leave program, to self-elect. You can pay into the plan. You can get, it's like an insurance policy. You can purchase the plan. So the deductions that everyone else is getting out of their paycheck, you can also pay that and be eligible. So self-employed folks, absolutely.
So you own a business, you're self-employed. What about if you have employees? You may be hiring a gardener. You may be hiring a maid. You may be hiring someone to come to look after your dad.
So anyone who works for you, right, and they're paid regularly, again, there's 2 criteria. If they work 20 or more hours for you consecutively, they would have to, in their payment, get that little deduction. It's like a 0.4% of your pay goes, like maybe a little less than that, 0.3 and change. Comes out of your check to pay into this program. So if you hire a gardener, and I don't know how or why, they garden, 20 plus hours a week for 26 weeks consecutively, or if it's less than 20 hours a week, they've worked 175 days a year. And the thing is, the 175 days is not consecutive. So it can take like 2 or 3 years to accumulate to that. But once you've gotten to that point, they would also be eligible to participate or to be able to, if something does happen, to leverage the paid family leave law.
Now, if they're looking after a domestic partner, does this allow for that?
Yes. So caring for a family member who's seriously ill, absolutely, this covers that. It's your child, your parent. It's not going to cover your cousin's best friend's aunt's third cousin. Like it has to be an immediate family member, and they do ask for documentation to verify that. But yeah, if you're taking care of an ill person that's in your family, that covers it. It also actually covers if you are assisting someone who's deployed abroad on active military service. So there's a lot of different criteria that would enable you to be eligible and get the funds right when you need it, to just devote your time to bonding, to caring for the folks that need it.
I think you skipped over part of my question.
Oh.
Suppose a person is a domestic partner.
Yes,
They're
domestic
not related
partnership
to-
counts. In the state of New York, domestic partnership does count. You're eligible if you're caring for a domestic partner. Yeah.
Okay. And you say that they get information about this.
You can so every employer is required by law to inform folks to let their employees know about paid family leave. It should be in their policy manual. There should be posters in the office. If they're working remotely, it should be something that they send to those employees to know about. So everyone should be aware, but I don't think anyone ever reads the employee manuals. They're super long. But that information's out there. But if anyone wants more information, you can definitely go to paidfamilyleave.ny.gov, and there's a host of information. But if anyone's getting a check, take a look. You'll see your little deduction. If you're there for a little bit of time, you qualify. So you may want to take that option. If something's going on, you're like, I'm scared to take time, you have that job security. So feel free. And there's a non-retaliation law, so you should be free to go.
And if they are looking after a family member, do they have to provide this information to the family member?
No, you apply directly to the state, and your employer will be notified just to verify your pay. So that's all you are required to do.
Okay. Adeola, thank you very much for providing this information for us, and we'll have you back to talk about the federal program.
Sounds like fun. Thank you.
Okay. We thank you for watching this program. Please tell your family, friends, and work colleagues to watch Brooklyn 45 and to support and be a part of what we do. On behalf of our Brooklyn 45 team, I'm Sam Taitt.
Brooklyn 45 is a 501c3 not-for-profit, and we welcome your support. Check out our website, brooklyn45.com, and feel free to donate or share it with your friends and family. Have any comments or questions? Send them to our Facebook, facebook.com/Brooklyn45TV. If you have any questions or topics you think we should cover next, shoot me an email over at brooklyn45tv@gmail.com. Thank you again for watching.